The following video has got all the information you need to know for Game Week 12. We're going to start off then, as we do with all the videos in this series, by looking at the top players by position for expected points. First up, we've got the goalkeepers. David Raya leads the way this week. 4.4 expected points. Arsenal heavily back to keep a clean sheet against Burnley at home. Similar story with Alisson Becker as well. He usually always is above Ederson for expected points, even when clean sheet odds are similar, just because he makes saves, and we're seeing that again with the predicted points against Brentford. Onana is in third place, Vicario in fourth, Johnson up there. I think Johnston, I've said in my previous video when I talked about my wildcard draft, I think Johnson is emerging as the best goalkeeper in FPL at the moment. Martinez, Ederson, Areola, Pope and Verbruggen round off the goalkeepers. On to defenders then, and again Trippier is top for expected points. I think the algorithm would have loved his clean sheet against Arsenal the weekend just gone. 5.8 expected points. Bournemouth away, really good fixture of course for Newcastle, and to be honest, kind of agree with that given the fixture. Saliba, again like I said with Raya, Arsenal heavily back to keep a clean sheet along with Liverpool, who obviously have Trent Alexander-Arnold up there. White, Dalot, Cash, Virgil van Dijk, Dunk, Gabriel and Luca Dean round off the defenders. Midfielders then, and again it's the story every week at the moment, Salah is top of the list by quite some margin. 8.5 expected points against Brentford at home. Son against Wolves on 7.1. Saka in third, 6.9 expected points against Burnley. Then we've got Mitoma, Adingra, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Maddison. Wait and see how he's doing with his injury. He of course picked up against Chelsea. I think, to be honest though, he was taken off as a precaution. We saw him in previous games this season going out of the ground on a pair of crutches, only to play the week after. So definitely wait for some news on Maddison. Then Pascal Gross and Jared Bowen round off the midfielders. Forwards, and again, Haaland is top of the list. No real surprise. Obviously, quite a few managers going without him at the moment, but he is still the top forward for expected points this game week. Evan Ferguson, interestingly, in second. Obviously, Sheffield United at home is a great fixture for Brighton. The question is, of course, does he start? This, of course, assumes that he does. Watkins in third place, followed by Nketiah. Darwin Núñez, who, God, he was due a haul against Luton, wasn't he? Just, yeah, I feel like owners there are really unlucky. Callum Wilson, really nice option in my opinion. Julian Alvarez, Højlund, Edouard and Wissa round off the forwards. Now I wondered if you could do me a favour. If you're enjoying the video so far, please make sure to leave a like rating, subscribe to the channel as well, set the notification bell so you can see when I upload next. If you're really enjoying the video, please consider joining as a channel member. You'll get early access to all of my videos, and when I deadline stream, I'll give you priority when I rate people's teams in Draft Hound. You can also, if you want to support the channel in a different way, check out my shop down below. You can buy yourself a golden goal sticker or a mug. All right, back to the video. So a quick look then at the Draft Hound top players for expected points, regardless of their position for the captaincy. We've got Salah in first place, over 1 expected points ahead of Haaland. For me, I think that suggests he's the best captain. I always find Liverpool at home are a different sort of beast to they are away from home. You know, the Anfield crowd, etc., etc. They really play up to that, and I think he's got a really good chance of doing well. Haaland is not so great away from home that he is at the Etihad, and I'd say Stamford Bridge is a really tough place for teams to go, well, top teams at least to go. I think regardless of the manager that Chelsea seem to have, they always get like low scoring games when the top teams come for Stamford Bridge. I think for that reason, Salah probably the best captain. We've obviously got Son in third as well, very close to Haaland, but I think Son's points upside kind of depends on the fitness of Maddison. Now, if Maddison isn't going to play in game week 12, then I don't think Son has got quite as much potential. Saka and Mitoma are there on the edge, although based on what I've seen from them in recent game weeks, I don't think you can justify captaining them. Clean sheet odds then, and my usual rule applies. Well, basically anything above 30% I'd consider starting defenders from these respective teams. Anything below, I think you should probably bench them. So we got Arsenal 60% likely to keep a clean sheet against Burnley. That's one of the highest clean sheet odds I've seen so far this season. Brighton and Man United both 50% chances against their respective opponents. Aston Villa and Liverpool and Man City all on 40%. West Ham 38, Crystal Palace 36, same with Newcastle and Tottenham, they're all on 36, and Everton on 31. So the story really of game week 11 was the sheer amount of flags that players have picked up. What I thought I'd do is put together a list of players I'd be looking to target, are reasonably priced, so they should be able to replace some key players that have been injured or flagged or suspended over game week 11. So Mark Gahey is my first player to look at. He could be a replacement for the likes of Udogie or Dan Burn. I think Palace are emerging genuinely as one of the best defences in the league so far this season. We've got a really nice set of upcoming fixtures. Comparing him to Anderson, obviously he's got, I think, 2 goals and 1 assist so far this season, so he's way up there in terms of points compared to Gahey. And Gahey also missed one of the games this season due to injury, so for that reason Anderson is quite a lot higher in terms of points. But when you compare them for underlying numbers in price, I just don't see why you'd buy Anderson over Gahey, considering there isn't much between it in terms of underlying numbers, and Gahey's 0.4 million cheaper basically. I really do expect some clean sheets in those upcoming games, so Gahey definitely a player to look at. My opinion's changed on who I think is the best Crystal Palace defender, to be completely honest. I was saying it was Gahey even a couple of days ago, but I really do think Mitchell is probably emerging as the best Palace defender. He's obviously nailed in that left back position. Seems to be getting a bit forward a bit more in recent fixtures as well. It might just be because Elise isn't playing in the team, and that means Mitchell's having to take up a bit more attacking responsibility. Said with Gahey, you know, Palace have proven to be one of the best defences in the league this season, so I'd have absolutely no issue taking basically a pick of their players. 4 really nice fixtures coming up. As for Mitchell, the underlying numbers, 0.4 XG, 0.8 expected assists. Not too dissimilar to what Gahey's got, but he has got more actual returns. You know, 1 goal, 1 assist. Gahey hasn't got anything yet. So for that reason, I think Mitchell's probably the best of the Palace defenders, if you want to target them. I think we're seeing the emergence of an absolute bargain in FPL at the moment in Jamal Lascelles. With Botman's injury, he's going to play for the foreseeable, in my opinion, probably for the next couple of months, given how Eddie Howe has described Botman's injury. A 4 million starting defender for Newcastle, I don't think you should overthink it. There's been no real noticeable drop-off in performances since he started playing. Last season, I'd say Botman was one of Newcastle's most important players and one of the reasons why they were one of the best defences in the league, but there's been no real noticeable drop-off, in my opinion, since he's not been in the team. I've said in there the next 4 fixtures are lovely. They're not lovely, but you know, Newcastle have proven that they can keep clean sheets against the top sides, particularly at St James's Park. I think Bournemouth, they could easily keep a clean sheet there. Chelsea at home, that's possible. Man United at home, considering how Man United are playing, definitely think that's possible. And Everton away, there's another clean sheet likely there, in my opinion. Spurs away, I mean, at 4 million, you can just bench Lascelles when you don't fancy him at the moment. I really do think he's a fantastic option. He's kept a clean sheet in more than half the games he's played so far, and he's only 4 million. Next player then, another Palace one, the final Palace player I'll talk about, I promise. Eze came off the bench against Burnley and got an assist. I really do think he's going to start that Everton game. He takes the penalties and all the free kicks and is just the talisman for Crystal Palace. He's going to play every game, as I said, that he's fit for, probably for 90 minutes as well. I think at 6.1 million, the value he's providing for the upside that he could give you, really, really good. If you find out that Maddison's out for a couple of weeks, a few weeks, and you've got Maddison in your team, you could potentially bring in Eze and then restructure some of the rest of your team as well. I really do think that's a decent option to consider. Only 3.1% ownership as well, so for the player as good as he is, I think that's really, really nice. And I'd also say his attacking output, I would suggest, is still capped by the fact that Elise isn't in the team. Elise's on a bit of a slower run to recovery than Eze is, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Elise back, certainly after the international break. So with those two together, I think Eze is only going to be an even better option than he is at the moment. You know, only 1 goal, 2 assists from 7 starts so far this season. He's not lit the world up so far. He has had some tough fixtures and, of course, not had Elise in the team. Those two factors will change in upcoming game weeks. I really do think he's a good option. Couple more players to go through then. I think Bukayo Saka is one of the best midfielders in FPL, basically. I know he hasn't returned very well in the last couple of games, but the type of player that Bukayo Saka is, he's going to reward managers that are patient with him. I think Burnley at home is a prime fixture for him to re-find that form. I think he's just underpriced at 8.6 million for the level of returns he's going to get across the season. For what he proved he could get last season, yeah, I just think he's great value. He's obviously Arsenal's designated penalty taker. Doesn't necessarily take them all, but he's definitely going to get some penalties before the end of the season. He's by far and away Arsenal's best player. He's nailed on that right wing as well. I'd say that's the important differentiator between other players in their midfield. You know, Martinelli could get replaced by Trossard. You've even seen Odegaard get dropped in some games, but whenever Saka is fit, he plays on the right wing because there is no competition for that position. So the one thing you can say with Bukayo Saka is, unless he's really injured, he's even played through minor injuries this season, you know, unless it's a major injury, he's going to play every game. The final player I wanted to talk about is a similar story really to Bukayo Saka. Jarrod Bowen is a player that's just going to reward managers that hold him all season long. He might not return in every game, but he will surprise you in my opinion. He will still return even against the top opposition. He's got that in his locker. He's absolutely nailed to play for West Ham. Plays the full 90 minutes. I've watched quite a few West Ham games this season as well, and he seems to get chances in every single game that he plays against pretty much any opposition. And at under 8 million, I think he really does offer fantastic value. You look at those next 3 fixtures as well. I've just bigged up the Palace defence, don't get me wrong, but you could foresee him scoring against Palace at the Olympic Stadium. I can't remember, London Stadium is what it's called now, isn't it? Then Forest at home and Burnley in the next 2. I mean, there's a couple of goals in those games, you like to think. Jarrod Bowen, definitely a buy. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a like rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of those players that I spoke about. Hopefully that gives you a well-rounded view of the game week ahead. Alright, I'll catch you in my next video.